My name is Nora Bennett. For the last 15 years, I watched my stepmother, Veronica Voss, systematically dismantle my life with my father, Graham Bennett, one polished, calculated move at a time. 3 days after we buried him, 3 days since I'd stood at his graveside, wondering if the final distance between us had been my fault, she was ready to execute the final act of erasure. It was 9:40 p.m. in attorney Daniel Whitaker's conference room. The air was sterile, heavy with the scent of expensive leather and old money. In the mahogany table, the recording device blinked red, a silent witness capturing everything. I knew every word spoken here would leave a permanent legal fingerprint. Zero Nicker, at Pingent Droit, was still a masterpiece of calculated elegance, silver blonde hair swept into an elegant chignon, her Hermes scarf draped precisely over her charcoal suit. But the veneer of grief was thin. Behind her, her sister Margaret and two cousins formed a silent, dressed-in-grey barricade, a unified front of cold anticipation. Before we proceed with the reading, Veronica announced, her voice carrying that practiced blend of authority and false sorrow. I have a document. That supersedes whatever version Daniel has prepared. She slid the manila envelope across the table. It was a codicil to my father's will, allegedly signed just 6 weeks prior. The reason for my disinheritance? Given Nora's extended absence from Graham's life, her lack of involvement in his care during his illness, and her failure to maintain meaningful contact, Graham chose to redirect her portion of the estate extended absence. The words hung there, poisonous and sharp. I felt the familiar protective numbness crawl up my spine, the same sensation that had shielded me through the funeral. How could I explain the 9 unreturned calls, the birthday cards that mysteriously vanished, the Thanksgiving dinners where my invitation got lost, the hospital visits where I was always told he was sleeping? She hadn't just separated us. She engineered a perception that I was the cruel, negligent daughter who didn't care. She had stolen my father, and now she was stealing his legacy. But I remained still, studying Daniel Whitaker. He was a 60-year-old attorney, a man of quiet power who had been my father's friend for decades. His eyes, hidden behind wire-rimmed glasses, revealed nothing. Yet, as he took the fraudulent papers, he gave me that subtle, almost imperceptible smile. It was the cue. I remembered the envelope my father gave me 2 years ago, telling me to trust Daniel. This was the time. The isolation was a slow, agonizing process. Zero Nika arrived 18 months after my mother's death and immediately began her mission to refresh the house, which meant systematically eradicating every trace of my mother. Her photos vanished, her garden was torn out, her piano was sold. But the worst was the constant psychological pressure. "Graham's very busy with the Singapore project," she'd say. "He has an important dinner tonight," when I asked to visit. It was a relentless campaign, gradually making me believe that maybe, just maybe, the distance was my fault. It took me years to realize it was a strategy, a carefully constructed fortress designed to make me appear the one who had walked away. But my father was a strategist who survived 10 years in business. He played the long game. The morning after Veronica's performance, Tom Hale, my godfather, contacted me. I drove through the empty pre-dawn streets to his office. He pushed the sealed envelope across the desk. Inside was my father's final letter. "My dearest Nora, if you're reading this, then Veronica has made her move and I am gone. Please forgive me for the years of distance. I knew about the blacked calls, the deleted messages, the lies about your absence. I knew and I let it happen. Not because I didn't love you, but because I loved you too much to let her destroy you the way she was destroying me." The words blurred. He explained that by the time he understood Veronica's true nature, she had already gained leverage over his business and, terrifyingly, controlled his access to the critical medication he needed. He couldn't fight her openly without risking her escalating the war and destroying my career. S.O., He chose to appear weak while becoming stronger than anyone imagined. He built my shield. He executed a 4-over will and established the Bennett Legacy Trust. I was the primary beneficiary. The trust contained an ironclad no-contest clause. Challenging it meant forfeiture. And the ultimate deterrent, the dead man's switch. For 3 years, he funded Gregory Barnes, a former FBI investigator, to document her every criminal action. Gregory's files included evidence of medication tampering, adjusting dosages to increase his confusion and dependence, financial elder abuse, funneling $2.3 million to offshore accounts, forgery, practicing his signature for documents, and systematic theft from my mother's childhood cancer research foundation. Every humiliation he endured, every isolation he suffered, was a piece of evidence added to the vault. The final confrontation was a week later. Zero Nicker, flanked by Jeffrey Cole, came radiating belligerence. Daniel Whitaker, utterly calm, began by citing the forensic report. Veronica's codicil was a fraud. Hospital records show Graham was under general anesthesia that day. Rather difficult to sign legal documents while unconscious, he stated flatly. The room went silent. Then Daniel clicked on his laptop. Before we proceed, Graham insisted on his contingency protocol. If Veronica speaks first, which Ms. Voss triggered last week, be presenting her document. Veronica's voice discussing the plot with Cole echoed off the dark wood. The key is timing, Jeffrey. If the old man doesn't sign it voluntarily, we'll need to be creative. That little brat isn't getting a penny of Graham's money. I worked too hard. Daniel paused the recording. We have 11 more files like that. Do you wish me to continue, Ms. Voss? He then revealed the complete scope of the counter-strategy. Sworn affidavits from staff confirming that we're instructed to lie about my availability, carrier logs proving my calls were intercepted, and records of her meetings with a disgraced accountant to declare my father mentally incompetent. Finally, Daniel delivered the blog. The true will grants Veronica a generous 10%, about $10 million, of the trust's assets. But the no contest clause is triggered by any legal challenge. I fight. I lose everything. Furthermore, any challenge triggers the Sunshine Protocol. The evidence compiled by Mr. Barnes, Daniel explained, pulling up a horrifying summary list regarding the medication manipulation, the offshore accounts, and the charity fraud. All of it goes public. The FBI White-Collar Crime Division is already intrigued. The media package is built and ready to launch. Veronica's hands shook. Cole whispered frantically in her ear. She was trapped. She had 2 choices, 10 million and silence, or public humiliation, criminal charges, and financial ruin. My father had weaponized her own greed against her. The next day, her surrender came. She returned looking hollowed out, her composure cracked. After signing the surrender documents, Daniel had one final requirement. To guarantee her silence and banishment, she had to provide a full, written confession of all her crimes. This would be sealed with the other evidence, released only if she ever violated the trust terms. It was a permanent sword hanging over her head. Veronica looked at me with genuine hatred and fear. He knew, she whispered. All those years, he knew everything. I just made sure there would be consequences, I replied. She took the pen and wrote it, detailing the medication tampering and the fraud, signing her own ruin. The confession was sealed. The keys were surrendered. She was given 10 days to vacate the property. Daniel opened my father's final letter to me. I need you to understand why I chose this path. Instead, I became what she expected, a weak old man she could control. Let her believe she'd won while I built your fortress brick by brick. Be happy, sweetheart. Be free. Be everything Veronica tried to prevent you from becoming. I drove to the house on Willow Crest. In the basement workshop, I found his final surprise, an intricate model of our house, representing the life he wanted us to rebuild. I placed it on the mantel. The next day, Gregory Barnes texted. Subject departed North Midlands via interstate, trucking active. No issues to report. Veronica was gone. I pulled out my phone and typed the email I waited 15 years to send. This is Nora Bennett. I'll be taking my position as majority shareholder and CEO effective Monday. We have work to do. Graham Bennett, the man who seemed to lose every battle, had ultimately won the war. And his daughter was finally home. I hope you enjoyed hearing Nora's story of justice. If this narrative resonated with you, if you've ever felt the power of a long game or celebrated a hard-won victory, please do two things for me. First, hit that like button to let me know I should bring you more stories like this. And second, share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of Graham's elaborate trap was the most satisfying for you to witness? Was his plan justified? Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in my life or any of the powerful stories we share here. Thank you for watching.